Today we're going to explore a question that has haunted thinkers for centuries. What does it mean to know? And more provocatively, can a machine or artificial intelligence ever truly know? We're going to travel a short but winding road through the core ideas of the theory of knowledge, what philosophers call epistemology. And we'll pause at a little-known but pivotal signpost, the Scottish philosopher James Frederick Ferrier, who actually invented the word epistemology in the mid-19th century. The quest for knowledge. Why it matters. Imagine that you're a traveller in an unfamiliar city. You have a map, a GPS app on your phone, and perhaps a local friend. All three claim to tell you where a coffee shop is. Which one do you trust? That simple dilemma captures the heart of epistemology, the study of knowledge. How we get it, what counts as good enough, and whether we can ever be sure we will have it all. The classic building blocks of epistemology are truth, belief, and justification. Most of us learned in school that knowledge is justified true belief. Let's break that down with a story. You hear on the news that the local council will raise taxes next year. You believe it, and checking the official council website later, which is your justification, you find the tax hike has been voted in. Belief. You think the taxes will go up. Truth. The tax increase actually happens. Justification. Your check of the official website gives good reason to hold that belief. When all three of these line up, we usually say that you know the council will raise taxes. However, what if the source was a fake document or report that just happened to be accurate by accident? This is the classic Gettier problem. Cases where belief is true and justified, but we still feel uneasy calling it knowledge, because the justification is, in a sense, lucky. The Gettier problem, introduced by Edmund Gettier in 1963, challenges the traditional definition of knowledge as justified true belief. For example, a broken clock just happens to be right twice a day. We'll revisit this when we talk about artificial intelligence. Let's now look at the sources of knowledge. Just where do we get it? Firstly, knowledge from the senses, empiricism. Think of tasting a strawberry. The sweetness is something that we experience. Next, knowledge from reasoning alone, rationalism. Mathematics is a classic example. You don't need a laboratory to see that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Most of us use a blend of these. We see, we think, we talk, we read. The skeptical challenge. Can we actually know anything? Skeptics might ask, what if we are dreaming? Or what if an evil genius is feeding us false data? In everyday life, we usually set aside those worries, but philosophers keep them alive to sharpen our ideas about knowledge. Enter James Frederick Ferrier, the man who named the game. James Frederick Ferrier was a Scottish philosopher who, in 1854, introduced the term epistemology, literally the study of knowledge. But he didn't just give it a fancy name. He offered a distinctive view of what knowledge actually is. There are 3 key points of Ferrier's thinking. Knowledge as a relation between mind and object. When you see a red apple, you aren't just getting a mental picture. You are directly relating in your mind to the apple itself. Immediate awareness, or intuition. Ferrier claimed that knowledge is not a chain of inferences, but a direct awareness. You know you are holding the apple the moment you do. The known and the knower are inseparable. You cannot speak of a particular piece of knowledge without an active subject doing the knowing. Ferrier also argued that knowledge is a mental artifact. It belongs to the sphere of consciousness, and not merely to a collection of facts. Ferrier's mental relation. An everyday analogy. Think of a mirror. When you look at yourself, you see an image that reflects you directly. The mirror doesn't store a picture. It relates light from you to your eyes. Ferrier would say that knowing a thing is like that mirror, an active relation, not a static photograph. AI enters the stage. So what does a machine know? Let's bring in a modern example. A language model like ChatGPT. It can answer questions, write poems, and even simulate a conversation, just like one of us. But does it know that the Eiffel Tower is in Paris? Let's test Ferrier's 3 criteria. Firstly, the relation between mind and object. The large language model has weights tuned on billions of text snippets that mention Eiffel Tower and Paris. There is no conscious subject. The mind is a distributed pattern of numbers, not an experiencing entity. Immediate awareness. The model doesn't see the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't have a sensory moment where the tower's silhouette flashes before its eyes. Its knowledge is a statistical association. It's not an intuitive grasp. Inseparability of knower and known. Here, the knower is a piece of software running on a server. It lacks the subjective standpoint Ferrier insists upon. So does that mean that AI can never know anything? According to Ferrier's strict definition, a machine lacking consciousness cannot truly know. It can represent or model information, but not relate to it in the mental sense. Using Ferrier's lens to understand AI. A twofold insight. Even if we accept that AI doesn't know in the sense described by Ferrier, his ideas help us clarify 2 important things about artificial intelligence. Firstly, the role of justification. In the classic justified true belief model, justification is a reason an agent can point to. For AI, justification is the training data and the algorithmic process that produced the answer. However, the AI can't explain its reasoning in human terms, unless we build in extra layers and make it an explainable AI system. Ferrier reminds us that knowing involves a self-aware justification, not just a hidden statistical trick. Next, the gap between representation and experience. Ferrier's mental relation highlights the qualitative gap between having a map and standing in the terrain. The map is not the territory. as models are often simplified or inaccurate representations of reality. AI often works like a map. It can predict, simulate, and even generate vivid descriptions, but it never stands in the world. This helps us understand why artificial intelligence may stumble in contexts that demand lived experience, like understanding pain, taste, or moral regret. Let us build a metaphor and consider the virtual museum. Imagine this virtual museum housing perfect 3D holograms of every famous painting. You can walk through, zoom in, and read detailed captions. What you have is an extremely detailed representation of reality. But you are not seeing the original brushstroke under the paint. You're not feeling the texture. Ferrier would say that the museum does not provide knowledge of the original artwork. Instead, it provides a model. Artificial intelligence is much like that museum, an incredibly rich model, but lacking the direct mental relation to the object it describes. The Gettier-style surprise for artificial intelligence. We call the Gettier problem, a justified true belief that turns out to be accidental. A self-driving car sees a stop sign, believes it must stop, and does stop. It's justified, as the camera has detected a stop sign. And true, the car stops. But suppose the camera mistakenly reads a billboard that looks like a stop sign. Yet a sudden gust of wind pushes the car forward just as the car begins to stop. So the car has stopped for the right reason, but not because it recognized the stop sign. We feel uneasy calling this knowledge. The car's belief was justified, but the justification was coincidentally aligned with the truth. Ferrier would remind us that knowing requires an intuitive mental grasp, something the car does not have. So, can we bridge the gap? Philosophers have long debated whether a non-human mind, perhaps an alien consciousness, an advanced AI, or even a sophisticated swarm, could meet Ferrier's criteria. There are two main possibilities. Functionalism. If a system behaves as if it had the mental relation, perhaps we can ascribe knowledge to it. Emergent consciousness. Some people argue that as AI systems become more complex, and consciousness, and thus true knowledge, might therefore emerge spontaneously. Both are speculative. Ferrier's framework gives us a yardstick. We would need to see direct, phenomenological connection between the system and the world, not just statistical patterns. So what are today's take-home messages? We have looked at a number of core epistemic ideas, and we're going to summarise these, explaining what they mean and their relevance to AI. First of all, knowledge equals justified true belief. You believe something, it's actually true, and you have a good reason or reasons for believing it. AI can produce true statements, but its reasons are usually hidden in code and not transparent to us humans. Ferrier's mental relation. Knowing is like a direct handshake between your mind and the thing you know. AI systems lack a mind that can handshake. It only manipulates symbols and data. Immediate awareness or intuition. You just know something without needing a chain of arguments. AI never has an aha moment. Everything is a computation. Justification must be accessible. You can point to the evidence and explain why you think it is true. Explainable AI tries to make the hidden justification visible to the user. Gettier style caution. Even with true belief and justification, luck can spoil knowledge. AI can get lucky predictions that look like knowledge but are accidental. So, in summary, we started with a simple traveller looking for a coffee shop, wandering through belief, truth and justification, and then met a 19th century Scottish philosopher who told us that knowing is a living mental relation, and ended up questioning whether a silicon brain can ever truly hold a coffee in its hand. My hope is that you'll leave this video with two things in mind: a clearer sense of what philosophers mean by knowledge, a practical lens for judging AI, not just what it can do, but how it arrives at its answers, and whether it ever relates to the world in the same way that we do. So, should we stop using AI for critical decisions? The answer to this question is nuanced. For tasks where statistical reliability suffices, like recommending a movie, AI's model knowledge is valuable. For matters demanding ethical judgment, personal experience, or accountability, we must remember that AI lacks the mental relation Ferrier demands, and we should keep human oversight at the core. The next time you ask a virtual assistant for directions, remember that it's offering you a model of knowledge, not a mental handshake with the street itself. And that distinction, although subtle, shapes how we should design, trust, and govern the intelligent systems that are increasingly part of our lives. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to click on the link in the description below to discover more videos.